Okay, the Kawasaki Versys 300X, a sort of underloved bike here in the UK for the fact that it came out in 2017, and because of Euro 4 emissions, or the step up to Euro 5, got cancelled in 2019. So it was only on market for 2 years. It was about £5,300–400. It was up against the 310 GS by BMW. Then the KTM 390 Adventure came out, and quite quickly people forgot about this bike. People kept saying to me though, you should add one to your fleet. So I run a fleet of A2 or smaller capacity adventure bikes for people to ride, and a lot of people, certainly the Americans and the Australians where this bike is still available, they said you should try one, you should get one on fleet. And I thought, well, maybe I will. So I saw this come up at 225, so £2,250 on Facebook Marketplace. And so I bought it to add to the fleet. I've been running it for the last month or so. A few people have ridden it, to be honest. It's not been a popular bike, but I wanted to take you out today on it just to show you or go through who it might be suitable for, who it might not be suitable for, what its strengths are and what its weaknesses are against the competition. A few changes I've made since I got it, or the big change I've made is swapping out the tyres that were quite worn, a road bias tyre, and I put on these Kenda big block tyres. They are a tubed wheel, so we've got a tube in there, quite tricky to get on. You know, the downside with these Kendas and the Hide Nows and the Mitas, they do last a long time, but they're quite difficult to fit. So what I would say is, if you are thinking about putting a knobbly tyre on a bike like this, maybe if you're running tubes and you are not comfortable with doing repairs in the field, then maybe stick to something like a Continental TKC 80, which is easier to fit, doesn't last as long, but it is easier to get on and off. So I'm going to take you for a ride on road and off road, see how we get on. All right, cheers. Okay, so we've got a kind of a cardo thing which does get in the way a little bit. Big screen. Let's see how we go, eh? As I say, it has got a small bike feel to it. It's just that first time you set off on it, you think it's broken because the engine's revving. It's picking up revs, but it's not really picking up speed. Second gear. I mean, we did 6,000 RPM and it revs to that, no worries. It's almost like that's you trickling along RPM range. 8,000 RPM. It's like a Japanese sports car, you know, Type R Civic or something like that. Okay, we're going to go straight into a lane. See what she's got. It's rain, so it's all a bit slippy. Standing position is actually pretty good. The chap before me who had this has put some risers on, which actually give quite a good spacious neutral stance. It was a funny move by Kawasaki, really. They geared it down, put 3 teeth on the rear cog to make it revier, to make it better for off-road. But then the foot pegs were rubber top ones that weren't removable. So it's almost like they didn't really know what they were building. They geared it for off-road, but they set it up with the foot pegs for on-road. So I think there was a little bit of mismatch. What I like about the bike is that real linear delivery means that you've not got no sharpness in the throttle. A bit of whiskey throttle or snap on the throttle isn't going to upset the bike or spin the back wheel up. To be honest, I think the only way you get the rear to spin is by slipping the clutch. There's just too many revs needed to build the speed to make it sensitive on the throttle. Unlike, say, even the new Himalayan 450 or the Triumph 400, those singles, quite snappy on the throttle. It'd be easy to get that back end to step out. Suspension oddly copes really well with this rough chop. It's not a terrible lane, it's quite an easy lane, but some bikes chatter along here quite a fair bit. They don't make it a smooth ride, but this is quite smooth, easy to get that gear shift as I'm riding. The bars are quite narrow, they're not as sort of high or as wide as I'd like them to be, but as I say, I don't really think it's that type of bike. I think it's almost accidental that the bike is going to perform off-road, given the fact its underpinnings are very much the Ninja 300. You know, the big shame, I think, and what everyone expected and hoped for, was that the 400cc engine that went into the sports bike would have carried through to the adventure bike, and I think that would have been a great move for the bike, just give it a little bit more torque. know, like now it's going, but it takes a heck of a lot of revs to get it going. Just likes a little bit of mid-range. But I'll tell you what, for somebody who's just after an occasional gravel bike, or certainly the Americans or the Australians who've got access to lots of miles of this type of terrain, i.e. not overly difficult, but you want something comfortable and capable, then I can see why this ticks a lot of boxes for that type of rider. For the UK trail rider, it doesn't have the suspension and the ground clearance and the type of engine that would make trail riding in the UK enjoyable or overly capable, but it's not totally out of its depths, you know. It's not totally out of its depths at all. And in fairness, much better than you'd expect it to be. The tyres are obviously helping. But I could do a day on the trails on this, no problems at all. No problems at all. And actually, that engine was incredibly tractable. Look at like here, like 4th gear, 16 miles per hour. It's smooth, it's clean on the throttle there. Pick up is clean, so you don't have to work the gearbox a lot on the bike, which you think you might have to do, but actually, no you don't. It'd take 4th there, and I could ride it all the way through to about 45, 50 miles an hour. And actually, if I put it in 5th even, 21 miles an hour, it's actually still clean on the throttle. Actually, let's go 6. 6 at 23 miles an hour. A little bit fluffy, but not too bad. You know, so that makes it very forgiving. Very forgiving. And a forgiving bike is an easy bike to ride. Okay. We're going to turn onto the road. Let's see what it's like on the road. So, first gear is almost redundant with the stock gearing. 2nd gear. Whoa! It was spinning up at the back there, actually. It's like a wailing banshee of a machine. I can see why owners really do gel with these, because it's quite intoxicating. It's an engine that really drags you into the guts of it. Yeah, you're feeling that rev building. It's coming. Come on, let's go. And it's not doing it at a pace that's going to kill you. You know, even then when it started spinning up at what 45, 50 mile an hour, it doesn't feel like it's going to snap out and kill you because it's not got the power. And the power takes that long to get there. It's never going to trick you. You know, it's never going to trip you up. So look at that, 6th gear, 40 miles an hour. That's perfectly pleasant roll on power all day long. I do actually, well, I bought a 15 tooth front sprocket, so as standard it's a 14. I have bought a 15, which is just going to soften it out a little bit, so hopefully you can make better use of the gears and make better use of 1st gear, to be honest. It seems like a common mod with the bike. It's odd that Kawasaki geared it so low. It's very... Yeah, these tyres are terrible. You know what, Kenda big blocks don't fit them. Really, if you value your life, I'm not saying they're deadly, but you know, like, they shouldn't be spinning out there. They shouldn't be. They're fairly new. They've not been on too many rides, but they're not new enough to spin out on a bit of wet tarmac at 40 miles an hour with 40 brake horsepower. Yeah, this has not got traction control. It has got ABS, which I believe was optional in some overseas markets. Whoa! Yeah, I tell you what, these tyres are lethal. Absolutely lethal. Right, I've come down this road so many times on so many bikes in so many conditions, and I've never had a bike spin its back wheel up. As easy as that. If you were on a fast bike, you'd be in trouble then. That's insane. Yeah, Kenda big blocks, I'm really sorry, but these are not a good tyre. I know when I fitted them to a Guzzi V85 TT and we went out in winter on them, they were terrible. They were terrible. Gave me no confidence. Any back brake, it locked the back. They shouldn't be that bad. They really shouldn't be that bad on this bike, which makes me apprehensive about showing you any particular road performance in the corners. But to be honest, let's go. Jesus! Who else is 17 on a 2-stroke? A apart from not having to rebuild it every 3,000 miles or every time you go out on it. It's a totally different experience. You know, people said, oh, what about this or a KTM 390 Adventure? You know what? A completely different machine. Not even comparable in so many ways. Like the engine delivery, the power delivery. The KTM is a far faster machine, a far better top end, but and it's an invigorating and invoking engine in itself. But this is different. This is pure Japanese 90s screamer. You'll either love that or you won't. Like even now, 53 miles an hour, 6 gear, 6,500 RPM. Haven't got roll-on power. A little bit. It's also linear. It's hard to gauge whether the power's coming in or not. It's actually imperceptible, the performance that the engine delivers. It's bizarre, but not unlovable. You know, that's the thing, it's not an unlovable engine because it is so smooth and so tractable, flexible. If it had have had that 400cc lift, I think it would have been unbeatable almost. Jesus, the tyres just on that seam line. This is an absolute no-go for these tyres. And to be honest, I was going to sell this bike, but I don't want to sell it with these tyres on. Maybe they'll get better. We'll find out. Because it's not even cold. It's maybe 8 degrees, 9 degrees. It's not even that wet. It's greasy, that's all. Crazy. If you want a decent tyre, Anlas Capra X is a decent alternative. TKC 80, Anarchy Wild is another one. There are lots of options. Yeah, not Kenda big blocks, sorry. Makes you wonder what the grip's going to be like in the corners. Anyway, we'll head to a lane. I'm going to show you what it's like on a slightly more technical lane. Service intervals on this bike, just before I sign off for this short section. 3,800 miles for an interim service, which is oil and filter, and 7,600 for valves. So it is quite service intensive, certainly for valves. To compare, the new CF motor is 3,000 miles for oil and filter, so less mileage, but valves are every 24,000 miles rather than every 6,800. So a little more frequent oil changing, but a far less frequent amount of valve checks. Are they necessary? That's always a question. Are valve checks necessary? You know, I tend not to think so, not after the first one or two. I'm sure the lady who went around the world on one of these bikes and was not getting her valves checked every 7,000 miles. She would not be. It is not a priority when you're travelling around the world. It would be far down that list of priorities, and that engine, I don't know how many miles she's done, but a fair old few. That engine's obviously held together, and it feels like it would, you know. This bike, every element of it, from the clutch to the throttle to the steering to the suspension to the brakes, feels fresh. 42,000 miles on a fresh bike. You know, I know we say, well, bikes should do 80,000 miles, 100,000 miles. Yes, they should, but they don't always do, and there's not many people who put that kind of miles on it, certainly on these smaller bikes, to prove that kind of theory. So I think this bike, 42,000 miles, looks like it's had a hard cosmetic life. It's a bit tatty in places, but mechanically, absolutely no fuss at all. Alright, to the lane. Down there. I get squeezed. Thanks, mate. Oh, can I squeeze it? Any chance of squeezing down, mate? No, you're alright, mate. You're alright. Don't worry about that. Thanks, mate. You have a good one. Argos. Yeah, so it's just getting your head around it, which is, you know, sometimes you find with riders, they've got a way of riding, they've got a system, they've got a type of riding, and we all have one to a large degree. We have a way of riding that we apply to our bike, but then when we jump on another bike, we apply that same style of riding, and that doesn't always switch over too well, because all bikes are different, all engines are different, all brakes are different, suspension's different. You know, and we have to adapt a little bit rather than just go, well, the bike's no good, which is what we do a lot of the time. We say, oh, I don't like that bike. Well, maybe it's because you didn't adjust your riding style, and I think that is crucial, really, if you're going to jump in from bike to bike. Okay, so we've got a semi-tricky trial. This first bit's nice and moderate, no worries here. That front wheel is giving me a bit better traction than a standard one. Actually, pretty decent traction in the mud. And in fairness, every time it stepped out, it didn't spit me. It didn't spit me off. So that's small mercies, I suppose. We've got a 19-inch front wheel and a 17-inch rear, which seems to be like the uniform setup for a compromise or hybrid on-road, off-road adventure bike. You know, a proper bike, adventure bike for off-roading would have a 21 and an 18. An old-fashioned sports bike would have a 17 and a 17, I suspect. But no, a 1917 is common amongst GSs, and I'm trying to think V-Strom 650s, etc. So it's a pretty common setup. And it gives some agility off-road and also some swiftness to turn on-road. So it is a nice compromise wheel size. So it's a lovely balanced bike. It feels light as well. It doesn't feel like it's wanting to drop in on me or tip over. Very neutrally stanced and balanced. I can move the bike across my body quite easy. It's quite adjustable. And also that throttle being cable operated and with that linear engine, I've got lots of feel through. Oh, squirrel! Don't get the squirrel. I've got lots of feel through the throttle, which I like. It's a bit choppy. That front end's a bit rough, but it's okay. I mean, look at that. I'm in fourth gear doing 15 miles an hour, and I've got roll-on power on the throttle. Who on earth at Kawasaki geared this bike? They must have been on crack or something. Absolutely bonkers setup, but you know what? It gives it its character, and you can easily change the gearing. There's no need to get too upset about gearing. Easy to change a sprocket. A 15 on this would pull me in and back down a third, which wouldn't be no bad thing. But fourth gear pulling up an incline off-road on a park throttle is pretty odd kind of gearing, to be honest. But as I say, it means I've got no snap on the throttle, which means I'm not going to trip myself up too easy. No, I probably shouldn't come down here if I'm honest, because this next little section is it has beaten better bikes and it's probably beaten better riders. A little bit choppy. We've got a gully through the centre in a second around this corner. You know, I've had to push quite a few people up this hill. I've had to push myself up this hill, in fairness, and I've had to have multiple attempts at doing this trail. You know, it's not very often I clear it in one go. Certainly not when I'm fresh to a bike. It normally takes me a couple of goes just to get into it. So it's going to be a good test for this Kawasaki. As I say, those tyres are terrible. More 70-30 bias tyre probably would be better for most people. We've got plastic angles, they're not going to do too much good, but you've got pannier racks. That's going to take some nice luggage. It's a mini touring bike. You know, I'd say it's a mini tourer / commuter. Commute through the week, tour on the weekend. It's so manageable weight-wise, you know, it's not intimidating at all. So if you're an older rider or a nervous rider or a newer rider, let's say, the manageability of the bike is its biggest tick, more so than, say, a CB500X, which I think feels weightier than this. And it's a very different proposition, the Honda. This is probably a little bit more exciting just because it revs that little bit higher. Those revs aren't going to be for everyone. Some people are going to think this is the weirdest thing ever. It does take a bit of getting used to, but I think it's a better bike than people have given credit for. I would say that. It's actually a decent looking bike. Green, is it the right colour for an adventure bike? Well, I must admit, when people have come down the unit to look at it or have looked at it, they went, no, I don't want to go out on that, it's too green. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think modern aesthetic suits the glory green of yesteryear. They probably need a more subtle hue. There is a black one which looks quite nice, and I think there's in America and that way they're obviously still selling it. There is an updated colour. I've got ABS, got no traction control. I don't need it. Conventional switchgear. Adam, who had the bike for, put the heater grips in and the voltmeter, which I like. This is, I don't know what that does. Technology. I'm going to take my glasses off because it's steaming up. Look at that, I've got my camera on. Wow, how did that happen? I can see what's ahead of me and I can see what's behind me. I like it. Right, let's go. Hi-ho, Silver. I'm dreading it. I'm going to sit down. I've got no rear traction. Okay, let's peak. But I tell you what, I've got a light clutch. I need to get up here. No way, no way, no. I've dropped it. He wants to buy it. That was a gentle drop though. That's the issue here. You've got a deep gully there. I'm going to pick it up in a second. Deep gully there, and you've got to stay to the left, and it takes a bit more conviction, which you tend to have when you're fresh to a bike. Yeah, that's how easy it is to pick up. Oh, a little bit heavy, a little bit heavy, a little bit weighty. One careful owner. Right, you know, all those videos that say, oh, this is how you pick a bike up. You know, this is how you do it on the flat. Look at this 5'6" girl or this old man picking this bike up. You know what? It does not translate when you're in this situation. It does not translate. So anybody who's trying to say, you know, it's just technique, nah, it's not technique. Unfortunately, it's strength, which is why I always think you should only be out on a trail on a bike that you can pick up through strength, not through technique. Because I can't get my bum to this now. The wheels are down, the bars are slightly higher. I can't get in that way. I've got to assess it. What do? I'm out here on my own. Okay. What's my best technique? Okay. Sometimes jumping off and using adrenaline is the best technique. Don't worry how you pick it up as long as you're not straining your back too much, but use that fucking Hulk force to get on that bike and dig it up. That's your best thing. Stopping and taking a photo and talking about it on the video, worst thing. Losing that adrenaline, losing that strength. Now I've got to assess it. I've over-assessed it now. What am I going to do? Ooh, call a friend. I ain't got that option. Get me hoist out, jack it up. No, that's not an option. Is it too heavy a bike for coming up here? Yeah, it is. It is, and it only weighs 170 kilos. So these people who think, oh, I might get a Tiger 900 as my first trail bike. You're madness. Madness. Absolutely madness. Nice and light. Nice and light. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to grab that one. I'm going to actually just try and oink that wheel down. It's that recess there. Thank God I went to the gym this morning. And I'm going to come under it. No, it's a bit weighty there. I'm going to bring that bar out. Tell you what, she's heavy when she's laying down. She is heavy. Right. Oh, and she's slipping. She is slipping. The worst thing of it is because I've been defeated, I'm going to have to turn around and go back and do it again. Because the frustrating thing is, I think this is the issue. Focus. As soon as you lose focus, which I did then, I was that excited about having nearly cleared it. I didn't clear it, I fell off. You know, focus. Right. Onto the bar. Right, oh, we go. No, slipping again. Making a right mess of this. Into the bank. Into the bank. We've got it. Thank you, Adam, for putting crash bars on. Most needed. Right, assess damage. Assess yourself. Am I injured? No, I'm not injured. Is the bike alright? Bike's fine. Bike is fine. Let's go down and have another go, shall we? Stay with me. Stay with me. This is how I review bikes. This is what I do to find out if I like a bike or not. Some people ride it for an afternoon and tell you, but that don't tell you a lot. Does not tell you a lot. Right. Hill recovery. I've done this bit before the video. How am I getting down here without killing myself? In gear, clutch. Stuck. There we go. Not on the brakes because the brakes won't hold it. You're just gonna slide. Biggest mistake you can make, try and hold it when you're sliding backwards on the brakes. It's just gonna lock and slide. Clutch. See what I'm doing? When the clutch is out, bike's not rolling. Bring that clutch in. Feather that clutch. Lovely. Okay. One careful owner. One careful owner. Sold it to me. Take a breath. Take a breath. I always say to people, when they fall off, take a breath. Take a breath. Just drag that straight. Yeah, that was an heavy bike. Say you're on T7. Too heavy. You ain't picking that up on your own. Not without a real battle on your hands. CF Moto. Battle. Himalayan 450. Battle. A big battle. Top heavy. You know? Trail riding in Britain. It's an easy thing to dream of. It's a very easy thing to dream of, trail riding in Britain. It's actually a little bit, look in there, there's actually a nice route to the right. this is the trickiness of trail riding. You buy your bike, okay, join the TRF, I've got my mapping, yep, got my mapping, know where I can ride. I've got no one to ride with, but I'll go out, I'll see what it's like, you know. I'll turn around if it gets too hard. You come around that corner, what do you see? I just see a lane with leaves on it. Bit of rock, that's alright. You start, you get into it, you realise it's more tricky. And then you're stuck. That's when you call your wife and say, Margaret, would you come and rescue me please? I'm on lane, I think it's just top side of Barnstable. Yeah, just bring your Uncle Barry as well, because he might need to lift my bike off me. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I'll sell it next weekend. And that's the problem with trail riding. It's very difficult to make your ability with terrain, because we don't have miles and miles of easy terrain. Okay, I'm going to go again. Focus, 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 focus. Up on the pegs. It's hard to get going. Wet leaves are a killer. So I almost wonder if I need second. Fuck. No. Yes. Nearly. Come on. Nope. Nearly. Not quite. So what I do, you watch people and they still try and ride it all, wheels spinning. And it's not going to stop spinning, is it? I get off the bike. This is where clutch control comes in. And I rock it backwards and forward. There we go. A little bit of pressure on the bars. A little bit of gentle. Come on. Well, this started out as a nice easy review of the Versys 300. It's turned into a disastrous day on the trails. A lesson in how to ruin your bike. I'm going to get on it now, see if a bit of weight on the back. Somebody told me a trick, thank you for the comment. Bounce on the back and drop the clutch. Nope, that does not work, sorry. Sorry chap. Okay. There we go, come on. The problem is this stone has got no grip. There she goes. She's out. Whetstone. Come on. Hurry up. Okay. That was a good gym exercise. What's the lesson? Don't be an idiot, know your limits. The lesson is you cannot make an off-road bike out of a set of tyres. You can't. And for the UK at least, anything at this weight requires a lane that you know and understand. It is not the type of weight to be going at a lane and guessing. Certainly not on your own. Certainly not on your own. The Kawasaki Versys, it didn't do bad, it didn't do good. It sort of did alright. Actually did as well as I maybe I expected it to. Anybody who knows that lane will know there's a little bit of challenge on it. Is it strong and robust? Yeah, it is actually. So the crash bars on. Is it easy to pick up? Depending on its position, not too bad. Easier than a 500X. I mean, that's the difference. Wouldn't even consider coming up there on a 500X. Never in a million years. And I think here we find its place. Here is where we find its place. I'm on the road. I'm in no rush, I'm not racing. I'm comfortable. I've got a decent screen. I've got a decent tank size. I've got decent economy. I can do 200 miles easy. I've got reasonably good grip, although not with these tyres. That's why I'm ginger through the corners. But on regular tyres, I've got good grip. The bike will handle well. It's a reliable bike. It'll do 42,000 miles without barely a scratch. Is this a bike for you or not? I don't see why not. Actually, it's going to fall from memory quite easily. This bike. It's got no great drama. Nothing to capture the imagination. The Himalayan came out just after it, the 411, and it captured everyone's imagination because it was an Indian workhorse, a chugger. Everyone seemed to want a chugger and it was cheap. Captured the imagination. This bike didn't. It didn't. It's not what the market wanted. It's not what the market needed. But at the price they are second hand, £3.5 grand, or 2.2 if you get a cheap one that's got a few miles on it, I think it's going to give you a lot of years of happy riding. Not trail riding, not technical trail riding, but commuting and weeks away. You could easily tour Europe on this, no problem at all. You go down through Spain, go to Europe, go to the Alps. You could do the Stella Alpina on it, no worries. Gravel track riding, back road discovery type riding if you're in Australia and in America. And I think it'd do the washboards of the Outback quite well as well. Trail ride in the UK, no. Got an ABS fuse out or an ABS sensor on. Maybe when I kill the ignition and recycle it through, it'll turn off. Yeah, it's quite alright. It was an interesting little ride out for me, that. I think that in many ways that the Versys 300X is not competitive, certainly not with the stuff that's coming out today. I think 7 years has been a long time and the game's moved on. And actually it's interesting that there's a KLE 500 just been sort of announced at EICMA recently in Milan at the bike show, twin cylinder, 21-inch front wheel. So that could be Kawasaki's attempt to take on CF Moto 450 MT. So I think the game has moved on in 7 years, and this is not as good as the CF Moto 450 MT, but at the same time, this is just a really nice, charming bike. Actually, the engine, being as quirky as it is, actually does work. It works to deliver a very smooth, relaxed, and also just sort of a very safe riding environment. There's no snap of power, there's no surge. There's no immediate pick up and go, which you kind of get with the Triumph sometimes, and also with CF Moto. You know, there's a kind of an orchestra of noise that accompanies the CF Moto, and it wants to go and it wants to rev, and it's quite a swift bike. Whereas this, you know, you've got a lot of travel in the throttle. There's a lot of revs to work through before it starts really delivering any power. So it makes it very gentle, very soft and friendly, and the chassis works well. The soft suspension deals with the back roads really well, and also with the softer or easier trail riding. It works really well with that kind of stuff. It's comfortable, the ergonomics are good. Brakes are good, clutch is nice and light, gear change is fresh. Again, it lasts a long time, 42,000 miles, it still rides really well. So, look, would it compete with today's bikes? No, it wouldn't. It'd be, if you put it in a head-to-head, it would lose, no doubt about it. But if you bought one of these, I think you'd really grow to love it, because it's just a dependable workhorse. A very reliable, Japanese, dependable workhorse. And I think if that's what you want, this is it. And that if that's not what you want, then this is maybe not it. But yeah, good honest bike, I would say. Good honest bike.